This episode is brought to you by the iTnews Cloud-Covered Breakfast Summit, powered by Microsoft and Dicker Data. Join senior technology leaders from across Western Australia on 31 March at QT Perth for a practical discussion on modernising workflows into public cloud, reducing architectural risk, and understanding where Edge fits into long-term cloud strategy with insights grounded in real-world experience. Hello and welcome to the iTnews podcast. Our guest this fortnight is Sallie Moore-Wood, the Director of Governance and Information Systems at Waratah-Wynyard Council and Circular Head Council in Tasmania's northwest. The two councils share personnel and a digital transformation strategy and roadmap, which covers information systems, cybersecurity, and other bodies of work. We asked Sallie to drill into particularly the cybersecurity aspects of the transformation, into some of the challenges faced so far, and how these have been addressed and overcome.
You have an interesting arrangement with two councils sharing certain resources, so maybe it'd be good to start with a description of that setup and how it operates.
The way it works at the moment is for my role. I'm the director across both councils. So I have a team that work across both councils. We do have separate systems though. So that's the thing to be aware of, is that we don't actually share data or information from the back end perspective. What we do share is if we go to vendors, we will go as a joint team, and you can get economies of scale to benefit both councils under the one contract. We have a number of policies and strategies that are combined as well. So our digital transformation strategy is a shared strategy across both councils. So we've got the same roadmap, if you like, as we're going through and when we're doing our projects and take-ons and all the rest of it. We're actually doing it once for both councils, but they're done independently with independent back ends of both councils.
So from a resourcing perspective, do you move between the two council areas? Because I think the two council areas are adjacent in Tasmania.
That's right. So they're about 45 minutes away from each other. Depending on the work and what's happening at any given day, I can have team members that are across both councils. We have different skill levels across the different councils as well. So we get to mentor each other and share information on upskilling each other in different areas as well, which is really handy. And being so close that we can just jump in the car and 45 minutes we can be at the other end.
So you mentioned that you keep separate systems, but you have a joint strategy, a digital transformation strategy. Is that the same as the IS strategy, or are they two different things?
It's included in the same thing. It's a broader strategy that has all different types of components in it. Information systems, cybersecurity, our intranet, our infrastructure, all that sort of stuff is all under the one strategy.
How long's the digital transformation strategy been going?
The joint one for both councils has only been going on for about 3.5, nearly 4 years now. And that's pivoted and shifted and changed as the environment changes. As we know, this environment is changing at a rapid pace. It's not like your old strategies that you would sit and you just follow that path for the next 5 years and then go and review it after 5 years. Every 6 to 12 months, we're looking at it and reviewing it and pivoting as we need to.
Okay, so it's more of like a rolling strategy.
Yeah.
What does it currently look like? So you mentioned information systems and cybersecurity are two areas of it, but are there specific projects within those areas that would be pursued as part of the digital transformation, or if there are some overarching goals?
There's a few overarching goals. I think the biggest one is really strengthening our cybersecurity presence and our knowledge. And then we've got our foundational infrastructure that we have other vendor partners working with for that. So there's different sections, and then under that we have different projects that we're working towards.
Just on the cybersecurity side of things, my understanding is that you kicked off a specific body of work around early 2024. Do you want to just talk a little bit about what drove the investment in cybersecurity initially as part of the digital transformation?
As we went through our roadmap on our DTS, we recognised that cybersecurity is a very specialist skill. Both Circular Head and Waratah, when you're being in a rural regional areas, those skill sets are extremely hard to come by. So as part of that, there was a project to try and work out ways that we can strengthen that skill set within the team. A result of that was the engagement of trying to partner up with a vendor. So we would go through our procurement process and became engaged with Excite Cyber. So that's how we came to it, in that we had our strategy, we had our roadmap, and we go, okay, this is an area we need to concentrate on. We didn't have the internal skills to be able to do that, but we wanted to find a partner that could actually train ourselves up, work with us as a partner, not just a vendor that we just pay some money and they come in and do some stuff for us. We actually wanted someone that we can go on this journey with, and they can actually really start to embed some skill sets internally, as well as assisting us for those areas that we don't have those specialty skills. It was a bit of a journey to get to that point. We had some previous experience with Excite Cyber in the way of internal auditing. So every 12, 18 months, we do an internal audit on our cybersecurity space and how we're tracking against it was the Essential 8, but now it's the TAS PSPF. We were going down the Essential 8, but as things transition and as the state has become more aware and supportive and giving us tools and things to be able to ensure that we are as protected as we possibly can be, we have shifted to that TAS PSPF and trying to be as compliant as possible across that, which really is beneficial around the whole governance side of things and documentation, and really understanding everyone's roles within that space, and understanding that in a small community we can have multiple hats within that one space, but it's really calling that out and understanding how that fits. And that's where Excite Cyber have really helped us to embed that and understand that and give us some guidance on how we can embed those governance components.
What were you doing before you engaged Excite Cyber and before you embarked on this work? Because obviously cybersecurity would have been there as a concern, and you were doing digital transformation work as well. So was it all run out of internal, or you had different partners?
It was all internal at that point. So just a bit of background around the councils is that I've only been here for 3.5, 4 years myself. So one of my first things was to come up with a strategy. Previous to that, they were very small councils, a lot smaller than what we are now. Everything was done internally. They did the best they could, but didn't actually have that formal governance overarching structure. So that was the first thing we put in place when I came along, was to really put that overarching structure in place to be able to move the organisations forward.
So you've mentioned skills in context of both skills transfer in terms of your partnership engagement, but also the other side of that is making cybersecurity a team problem, an everyone problem, rather than just something that's based in this sort of information systems domain. So do you want to talk a little bit about what your thinking there is?
The big words within that is the culture shift. Everyone looks at cybersecurity as an IT problem, and it's actually not an IT problem, it's an everyone problem. And really working on that culture within both Waratah-Wynyard and Circular Head, that phishing emails are real and this is how we deal with them, this is what we do with them, giving them access to online training and giving them access to resources to be able to question themselves on when they're doing a master plan or a piece of work that might include, say, spatial services, and what does that mean and what does that look like from a cybersecurity perspective, and just bringing it into their everyday thinking and being aware has been a key point for us. The way that Excite Cyber have actually helped us with that is with our Know Before component. So that's a really great tool that really targets the different areas of council. So being local government, we do anything from waste services to community events, a number of different areas of both internal offices and out into the community. The Know Before product really assists us to be able to target training based on those roles and make it real personal to the staff. And that's what we've found a massive uplift in. Even some of our crew that aren't necessarily IT savvy are actually questioning things. They might find a USB drive on the ground in the middle of an oval that they know not just to put it into a computer. They'll bring it into the office and say, I found this. Is it anything you need to know about? So just that culture shift of letting everyone know that it's not just IT that needs to come in and fix something. The biggest area of fault within cybersecurity is the human error. So really getting them to understand that. So that was what our goal was with that part of the DTS and our engagement with Excite Cyber.
No worries. And I know you mentioned that you've got a broad range of services, as all councils do, but obviously you've got this digital transformation program running. So I'm assuming that digital experience is playing perhaps a bigger role, or digital interaction with systems is playing a bigger role in a lot of roles within the council. So that would necessitate that even though they might not be IT savvy, they would be developing some digital skills as part of the transformation effort. And that would therefore lead them to have to be more cognizant, I guess, of the negative risks associated with being more in a digital ecosystem.
Yes, absolutely. And you're finding it in all parts of council. So in our comms area, they might be doing a survey or something, and they might find that, oh, there's a really cool app, let's download that app and use that app. And it's like, oh, hang on, let's think about that first. Same thing with our community groups and activities that we do, that there's lots of AI type things that they can use to help them in that space. But it's really about understanding what's the impact of that. And we're really seeing a huge uplift of questions and things coming through, which just shows that the work we've done in the last 18 months has been huge to be able to get the staff and the organisations up to speed and this being at the forefront of their mind.
Something else that was mentioned was it looked like there was at least a couple of years of forward planning that you were looking at in terms of cybersecurity activity. And I think particularly it was mentioning documentation and again around compliance and auditing. But do you want to talk a little bit about the documentation side of things and what you're specifically seeking to do?
Yeah, so both Waratah-Wynyard and Circular Head being small councils and having a small team, you have people that have been around for a long time and have had lots of roles, and they sort of just by rote do different things the way they do them. And it's not necessarily right or wrong, it's just the way things have always been done. What we're looking at doing is starting to really put that governance piece on that. So really understanding our policies and understanding how those policies work and documenting that so that it's just not in somebody's head, that's actually people can come and go, or if something were to happen and we had cyber come in, they could actually look at those policies and they can see how we operate and how things work and what happens and who's responsible for what. So really strengthening that governance side of things and having that more available internally versus so-and-so's on an RDO, so we don't know how that works type situation. I think the smaller your organisation, the higher risk you are of that, because you do get lifers. You get people that are staying in the same role and staying in the same organisation for 30 years and they just do their job. And why would you want to document when no one else is tapping into that? So that's where we're shifting that culture shift again of really understanding what good governance is. The TAS PSPF falls into that as well, all of that sort of thing. So it's really understanding policies and getting that information out and into those frameworks.
And how are you actually doing that knowledge capture, if I can ask?
It is very much manual, and I take advantage when people are on leave. So if someone goes on leave, I do make sure that they stay away, and then we pick up things to go, oh, actually, so-and-so used to always do that, so now let's document that. So moving roles around within the team, I think, help with that.
And just finally, if you can just talk to me a little bit about if there are any other next steps or maybe what excites you about this space in the next 12 months insofar as the activity that your council is doing.
I think the next big exciting thing is AI and where's that going to take us? It can be our best friend or it can be our worst enemy, right? And really understanding how that's going to impact on both Waratah-Wynyard Council and Circular Head Council, but also our engagement with vendors and our engagement with the outside world, if you like, of really how we can use the benefits and how we can protect ourselves and be proactive in that space, because I don't think it's going anywhere and it's moving quickly. And I think even 12 months is too long to be looking. You know, we should be looking at the next 3 months, 6 months and pivoting and shifting. I think that's the big thing. What I really love about our partnerships with all of our vendors and both the councils is that we're aware that we need to stop and pivot. And sometimes in a government department, that can be quite difficult. Being small rural areas, it's really easy to stop, pivot, change, shift with the world that's changing at the moment. So that's what excites me.
And as governance for artificial intelligence, is that going to remain within the domain of the information systems area, or is it a cross-functional thing?
It'll be driven from my space. Obviously, it'll be a whole, like I've been saying, it's an everyone thing. It's not just an IT thing, but actually it will be driven from this space, and it is all part of the DTS and strengthening those foundational pieces within
that. That's the episode for this fortnight. Stay tuned for the next episode. And for all the latest headlines and happenings in Australian technology news, head over to iTnews.com.au.